This right here is a controller I first made when I started getting into electronics. I'm going to make this much more advanced and so it can control other stuff I've made like this FPV tank, and then I'm also going to make a housing for it so it's like a more advanced version of this. I'm going to do it in a week. So currently it has the following capabilities. So currently we've got joysticks on both sides, these toggle switches on both sides as well as buttons on both sides. This is a rotary encoder. We've got a TFT panel and then a little OLED panel down here. This is a STM32 microcontroller. This is a 1 kilometer range RF 2.4 gigahertz module. And obviously the wiring is a total mess. I've done a similar transformation before, but it was much more simple. I made this RC controller into this. Basically just added the frame. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this color scheme or maybe just do all black. So before I take it apart and modify it, I need to fix a couple issues. Currently, the buttons and the toggle switches aren't quite working correctly. I looked into it, it turned out the wiring was a little bit off, so I rewired everything. And then to test this, I need to reflash some new code onto the microcontroller. To reprogram it, it is a little bit of a process where I gotta plug this in, then use a wooden stick to hold down a button, and then I can turn the switch on from the computer. To help with fixing stuff, I can just put it on the OLED screen at the front, and you can see as I'm moving the switches and the buttons, all of them are now working correctly. So now I can start the most interesting part, which is going to be the design. So one big difference between this version and the simpler version doesn't have the buttons and toggle switches. So first up, I just wanted to think about how I was going to attach the toggle switch and the buttons into the handle. My first idea was to integrate them on the outside. For example, the button would be on the outside like this. However, in the end, I decided to go with a more advanced solution where the button will actually be on the inside and the wires will be routed through. The toggle switch and the LED above it will also have its own separate hole just here above and below each other. This is how the prototype came out. I'm really happy with it came out. If it looks like it's got a line through the middle of it, it's because I accidentally split it in half. You can also see how the toggle switch is and the button is kind of put in the back. Then it was time to take apart the existing controller. This is going to be a little bit painful because I spent so long obviously making it. After taking everything apart, this is what we're left with. I also can't turn this on again because the risk of the wires touching each other and shorting is too high. Before I make any modifications, I need to fix what's going on here and then add some more capabilities. So I got to reposition both of the joysticks so they're a little bit lower and even with each other. So I'm going to use hot glue to also reattach the RF module and the joysticks. The joystick's going to be at the top. So I've also taken a photo of the wiring for the TFT panel here, just so when I take it off, it's convenient to rewire. At the moment, I'm a little bit concerned. The height of this container is going to be pretty high. If you see here, it's pretty thick and there's not really much I can do without rewiring everything. At this point, looking at this thing, I'm feeling a bit less optimistic, I think, because there's no going back. And it's clear with the kind of how much of a mess the wiring is, the way forward is also going to be, could be pretty hard. So it's day 2 now. I'm trying to add capabilities. The first capability is an IR receiver, the next is an IR emitter, and the third is a USB serial control module. This will allow me to read IR commands like from a TV remote and then replay them with the emitter, and also I can control everything via PC. So I was just chopping one of the modules down with these pliers, however unfortunately it's just flown into the air and it's just gone, so I got to spend a bit of time trying to find it. So after finding it and gluing them together, this is what the IR receiver and emitter look like. My plan is to mount them at the front of the whatever you'd call that. So with everything attached and glued in, it looks like this. I am thinking I am going to have to make some kind of front plate that will slot on and cover it. So to power this thing, because I'm not going to rewire it and the current wiring is a little bit of a mess, I'm not going to use a LiPo, it's not really the safest solution. I'm going to use rechargeable AA batteries. This will give me 2800 milliamp capacity, which is actually fairly decent for this controller. It will be okay with that. So I glued in the battery pack on the other side. So at this point, right, I just posted the first TikTok explaining that I just started this project. So at this point, there's not really any going back, and I got at least a little bit of accountability. So I've got to actually do it now. This is also the most kind of, I would say, demoralizing part, where it's just kind of a mess on the desk, and the way forward could be pretty long. So I'm just taking all the measurements down. I got to measure basically every single dimension so that I can then construct the 3D housing in CAD. So after doing all the 3D design and printing everything off, this is how the parts came out. This is how the front plate came out with the displays attached. You can see the TFT panel at the top is okay. The OLED panel at the bottom, the measurements were a little bit off, probably because I did it at like 3 AM last night. So I'm just going to glue that in instead. And then this is how it attaches to the base. And then adding the front panel, everything just about lines up. I still need to move the joysticks further down. And then with the handles, it is starting to look a bit more like an actual controller now. So when it's got the top layer on, you can see how the front part's going to have to fit over all these things. This is a part I designed, it just fits in perfectly, and it can screw in on both of the sides. So it's day 4 now, and I gotta do one of the tasks I've been dreading, which is gonna be wiring up all the switches and button and LED in the handles, and then routing it through the body of the controller, and then attaching it to all the wires in the frame without shorting anything, and with basically very little space to do this. I just repeat the process to make the other handle, which is easily enough. The wiring for the handle has to go through the body of the controller. There's a triangle shaped gap for all the wires to fit through, and I can just pull them through like this. So day 5 and 6 were basically just spent wiring everything up. Both these 2 days I need to wire all the internal buttons and switches to the frame. So this is the final controller. So when I turn it on, this is what happens. And on the side we've got the switch and the micro SD card holder. And then on the back we have the unscrewable plate where the AA batteries go. So I'm happy with how it came out. It does look a bit like a lunchbox from this angle, but without redoing all the wiring, I can't change that. So this right here is an FPV tank I also made from an existing frame. So I'm going to be using the controller to try to control this. I'm going to make a bunch more modifications to the FPV tank. It's just a prototype at the moment. I'm just going to use it to actually just test the controller. And as you can see at the moment, it doesn't have a backplate installed, and it does also have suspension as well. Each wheel is independently suspended. This is what the view is like from the FPV goggles. In person it looks a little bit better, also just through camera it doesn't come across that well. So turning the controller on, and I'm going to slowly push up on the stick. So left stick is obviously for the left track, the right stick is for the right track. I'm staying below half power, just because I've already burnt through a couple of the motor driver boards I have in the tank. Basically the tank is a little bit too powerful for the motor driver board I'm using. I'm going to upgrade it in the next couple of weeks so I can go full speed. I just got to take it easy for now. I don't want to do any more rewiring this week. So yeah, after I checked everything worked, it's time to take it outside. This is what the FPV camera looks like outside. So yeah, this is a little tower I made. I'm going to use the FPV goggles and try to drive the tank into this. So everything works really well. In a future video, I'm going to add a bunch of upgrades to the tank, and I'll be able to get at least double the speed when I upgrade the motor driver. So last up, today in the lab, I rate everything I make. I'm going to rate this out of 100 across complexity, design, ingenuity, and performance. Each factor out of 25, so total is 100. And then I'm going to add it to the tier list. As kind of like a baseline, the last thing I made, well the first thing I made, was this tiny little micro fan. This got 22 out of 100, which put it in F tier. So for complexity, I gave it an 11 out of 25, because there is quite a lot of code involved and quite a lot of components inside it. However, it could still be way more complex. For design, I gave it like an 8 out of 25. I think it looks pretty much as good as it can, considering the thickness of the internal electronics. I don't want to rewire. I'm quite happy with the handles as well. So for ingenuity, I gave it like a 9 out of 25, because it's got basically all the same controls like a normal controller would have, right? The joysticks, the buttons, the switches, this kind of thing. Nothing new in that. However, the USB-C control, which allows it to be controlled by a laptop, and then the infrared receive and emit is a little bit better. For performance, I rated it higher at 18 out of 25, just because basically everything works, and the ergonomics of the switches, the joysticks, the buttons, everything is perfect for my hand size. One of the only things that could be improved would be the battery life. Even though the battery life is really good, because of it's something I can make myself, I can literally put as big of a battery as I want in there. It could last for weeks. So that brings us to a total of 46. So if we go over to the tier list now, so obviously we have the fan there from last time. If you guys still haven't watched that video, maybe carry on still not watching it. It was my first video, it wasn't great. Okay, so for the controller, it got 46 out of 100. That means it is going to go in C tier. It is a bit of an upgrade from the fan, but still a lot of improvements can be made. It can be a lot more advanced, a lot better. It can do a lot more exciting stuff, and it can also look a lot better as well. So yeah, basically that's it. In terms of stuff I still need to do, I need to kind of make an operating system for the controller just to get the most out of it and to be able to use all the different stuff. I will do that in the next video and then show you guys. And then also the FPV tank is going to get a bunch of modifications and extra stuff on that as well. If you got this far in the video, thanks so much and take care.